So the Nigerian National Petroleum Company Limited and the Nigerian Content Development and Management Board and international oil companies operating in this country have signed a memorandum of understanding to reduce the cycle of contracts within the sector. Key benefits of the framework in the MOU include a reduction of the contracting cycle for open competitive tender, selective tender, and single sourcing tender to 180, 178, and 128 working days, respectively. And that compared with the current best efforts performance of 327, 333, and 185 working days, respectively. That's bringing efficiency to that. So let's switch gear and talk about the securities market. Regulatory bodies across West Africa are meeting over the next few days to discuss the roles that the capital market in the region could play to support infrastructure financing. Joining me now to discuss the upcoming summit is Saad Abdulsalam. He's a member of the Technical Committee of the West Africa Securities Regulators Association. It's great having you in our Abuja studios tonight. Thank you so much. Let's get the conversation going very quickly. Tell me briefly about the WASRES conference. Tell me about this conference. Why is infrastructure financing the key focus for this year's edition? Talk to me.
Okay, thank you. The West African Capital Market Conference 2023, tagged WACMAC 23, is a biennial conference that has been happening. The first episode took place in Abidjan in 2019, and the second one was expected to happen in Accra, Ghana in 2021. However, due to the COVID restrictions, we were unable to hold it then. It happened last year, 2022 in Accra in May. And then it is the turn of Nigeria to host this year's conference so that we can align the calendar properly and go back to the 2-year time frame for the conference. Now, this conference is aimed at bringing people from across the globe, all professionals, the capital market communities across the West Africa to rub minds and find out ways to resolve certain issues that are bugging our nations.
Yeah, so infrastructure, very quickly, because we don't have much time. Infrastructure financing is the central focus for the coming conference. Why is that so?
Correct. If you look at generally in the developed nations, our key challenge is issue of infrastructure. It can be economic infrastructure, it can be social infrastructure, and whatever. So we look at how do we tackle this issue of infrastructure deficit. We have to rub minds to find way of financing such infrastructure deficits, either through private-public partnerships or through private sector intervention, and so on. Now, by having a market that is integrated, it will give opportunity to West African countries to raise funds from across the sub-region so that they can develop their infrastructure, be it roads, be it waterways, be it schools, health infrastructure, and so on. So it is very critical. There's no society that can live and survive without infrastructure. So we must look for ways and avenues to fund. And you see, you cannot use short-term funds to finance infrastructure which have a long-term lifespan. So we must look at the long-term source of funding. And the only way to can raise such long-term funding is through the capital market. So by the time we have an integrated West Africa market, it will be easier to raise funds across the sub-region and now bridge that infrastructure gap that is becoming an issue.
Interesting. So you holding this conference every 2 years. You're a member of the technical committee. How much has this conference achieved so far over the last few years, or few ones that you've held despite the COVID-19 pandemic?
Okay, so at least the project of market integration in West Africa is in phases. The first phase, which is sponsored access, has been achieved. where a Nigerian stockbroker can sponsor either a Ghanaian stockbroker or the stockbroker in the Umowa region to trade on behalf of their clients in the Nigerian market. Now, the second phase, which is Qualified West African Brokers Scheme, is about to be launched. We have developed the regulations, we have developed the framework for issuance of the securities and then the trading in the secondary market. Last week in Abidjan, we had a conference, not really a conference, a workshop, which is more of a sensitization workshop to enlighten their market about the benefits of having an integrated market. So all those are the offshoots or the results of the previous conferences that we held in Abidjan and Ghana. So as it is now, we have framework for issuance of debt instruments across the region. Hopefully, by the time we hold, maybe after the Nigerian conference, the next turn will be Abidjan turn to host. By then, probably we might have an integrated market, which there will be free movement of capital. There will be freedom to raise funds from across the region, and that will go a long way in developing our markets, in deepening the markets, and also in expanding it so that we can match what is happening in the European market.
Okay, so you said part of this very wide, market-wide for West Africa conference will be speakers, panelists from around the world. So talk to me more about this faculty of speakers and what you expect them to bring on board for us here in West Africa region as far as using the various markets in West Africa to support infrastructure financing.
We are expected speakers to come from Africa Development Bank, to come from the West African region, from the IOSCO, which is International Organization of Securities Commissions. Also, we expect speakers from the International Sustainability Standards Board, which is a body set up to develop disclosure standards on sustainability issues. We expect speakers from Pan-African payment systems because the speaker from Pan-African payment systems will enlighten us more on what PAP means and what it stands to achieve, which is a payment system that will ease movement of funds across the region. So that will take care of the issue of use of different currencies across the sub-region.
Okay, so I'm sure the head of the SEC in Nigeria, the Director General, let me do you good at, will be sitting at the head of the table to lead these discussions. So thank you so much. We look forward to that conference as Nigeria is hosting that. Thank you for coming through on Arise Exchange. Saad Abdulsalam, a member of the Technical Committee of the West African Securities Regulators Association.